Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Know White Lotus here on RHAP. We're so happy that you chose to spend your time and your stay here with us. It's going to be our privilege to serve you here every single week here, talking about the White Lotus. And here with us, of course, somebody who's here to make sure that you have the most wonderful experience here with us. It's the great Josh Wigler. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. I'm so happy to be your health mentor as we guide you through
More energy.
Season 3 of the White Lotus. Everyone picks me, Rob, to be their health mentor because I'm handsome.
Yes. Okay. And we are so delighted. We know you have many different choices of where to stay for your podcast recaps. So thank you for choosing to be here with us.
So we know the White Lotus. And there are so many We Know the White Lotuses all across the internet.
Yes.
There's We Know the White Lotus, Hawaii. We were there.
Sure. But this one is specifically catered to you because this will be maybe the most stupid, but also the one that caters most to the Survivor fan base that is, of course, so appreciative of everything the great Mike White has done. And he's back at it again with Survivors in the premiere, and we're back to talk about it.
We're doing White Lotus coverage here on RHAP. We do, of course, salute the great Survivor finalist, Michael White, who has since
the auteur.
Since appearing on Survivor, the auteur, who has now created 2 Emmy-winning seasons of the White Lotus, and he's back for round 3. And I do think, Rob, we know the White Lotus, but we know the White Lotus in a way that even if we're a little dumber than the rest of the podcasts, we know something about the White Lotus that the rest of these White Lotus podcasts simply do not know. And what we know is, while everybody else thinks that the White Lotus is the most important show on the planet for Mike White, we know it's Survivor. We know that that's still in pole position for Mike White at the end of the day.
Yeah. And Josh, you've articulated so well in our conversations of why you feel like that there's so much Survivor DNA here in the White Lotus.
This show is the only show that I can think of that has successfully captured Survivor and turned it into a drama. I say this as an enormous Lost fan, where the initial pitch was Survivor meets Gilligan's Island. I don't think that's really what Lost was.
No.
I really don't think that was it. But I think that the White Lotus has extreme Survivor energy. It has a set structure to the season. Every season is a week at a hotel. The hotel changes. The structure stays the same. Different players come in every season to test their luck at the White Lotus. I don't know if you want to call every single dinner the immunity challenge or the tribal council portion of the episodes, but every episode includes like a big disruptive dinner where you're establishing the personalities. It feels very tribalistic, and the entire season, not unlike a beloved podcast from Once Upon a Time, First One Out, is building to the question of who got. Every season so far, someone dies at the start of the season. We don't know who it is until the end. And based on the opening here in White Lotus, Thailand, Rob, it could be a lot of someone's died. The question we may want to ask is like, who's still alive by the end of the season? So I think there's a lot of Survivor DNA in here. I think there's a lot of people watching from Mike White. And then there's literal Survivor DNA in the fact that every season he brings survivors onto the show.
So really looking forward to going through all of this with you, Josh, and with you, the listeners. And of course, we want to hear from you. So of course, we'd love to get your comments here on YouTube, here on our We Know Scripted TV YouTube channel, and subscribe to the podcast every single week. You can hear this and much more when you subscribe. We Know Scripted TV.com. That's We Know Scripted TV.com. Okay. Josh, now Survivor waited till season 5 to go to Thailand, but the White Lotus jumps ahead to season 3.
Yeah, should Mike White have followed the exact geographical
Well, he would have
patterns
had to
of
do
Survivor?
season 1 in Borneo.
Right. So he could have gone all the way back there. I mean, he got to Hawaii before Survivor did, which is a little bit of a surprise.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Survivor Thailand, a much maligned season of the
Yeah.
show.
This will be better than that.
Will White Lotus Thailand be a better season of Survivor than Survivor Thailand?
We'll see. The bar is in hell, but
Yes.
we'll see about that. All right. So, Josh, we have one episode in the books, and we really, in true White Lotus format, we end up meeting all of our characters that we're going to be spending the season with. And
first episode is always like the salad bar, like first episode of White Lotus is always like, okay, I'm gonna get up. It's time, like I've cozied in. I know I'm staying at a fine luxury resort. I will almost certainly enjoy my stay to some degree. I'm gonna go see what they've got on the buffet line. And so you get up and just like you do the lap, and then you go back to the table and you tell your family like, okay, well they got biscuits. Those look pretty good. I didn't put anything on my plate yet in case you wanted to check it out yourself. So it's always an exploratory operation, the first episode of a season of White Lotus.
Yeah.
This is much the same. It's like it's a little getting to know you.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay. So let's meet the cast. Let's meet the players here in the White Lotus season 3. And really we have 3 groups of people that are accompanying
3 tribes.
The White Lotus.
3 tribe format this season.
3 tribe format. And let's start off with the Ratliff family. And wow, this was very relatable to me coming from North Carolina.
Yeah, Tar Heels. Go Tar Heels.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have Tar Heels
or
loyalty?
go Blue Devils.
Well, be careful. Well, are they competitors with the Tar Heels? The Blue Devils?
that was the big part of what they were fighting about.
Yeah, well, I think like you gotta be real careful about what side you choose to support here as a member of the Tar Heel state yourself, Rob. Think very carefully about which one of the Ratliffs is the most likely to listen to a podcast.
Yeah, frankly, I'm not gonna get burned again, but here I feel like that. Throw in also NC State, the Wolfpack.
Wolfpack's the name of the group in The Hangover.
Sure. But yeah, here in North Carolina, there's, a few schools that have, rivalries with each other. It really, we hear about NC State, that's, UNC. And then also we hear about everything going on with, there's NC State, UNC, and Duke, the big 3.
I'm going to have to take your word for it, man. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. They're vaguely schools and sports as far as
UNC and Chapel Hill are interchangeable.
Blues, right? That's the color. We're looking at a little baby blue.
Baby blue, for UNC. And more, Duke is more of the navy.
Okay, so they're like a more serious grown-up blue. So like it's a baby blue versus a middle-aged blue? What do we call a navy blue?
Sure. Okay. Josh, talk to me a little bit about the Ratliff clan.
I love this is... So just to start, I think one of the biggest things to get into coming into this season of the White Lotus is for the first time, we are without the familiar face, the much beloved, the dearly departed Tanya McQuad. We are without my mother this season of the White Lotus. I'm a little nervous to see what a Tanya-free White Lotus looks like, but very quickly,
She's here with us in spirit.
Because she's definitely here with us in spirit at the bare minimum. But then there's the cast that Mike White has assembled for season 3, and there's some people in here who I'm meeting for the first time, and then many people who I'm meeting for the severalth time, and that's more than 7 to be precise in some cases, and members of the Ratliff family included. So this is the roster. We've got Timothy Ratliff, who is the patriarch and is a very wealthy dude. He loves his phone. He's not really eager to give up his telephone, although that's one of the things he's asked to do. played by Jason Isaacs. Is this an actor you know terribly well, Rob? Jason Isaacs?
No, he seems familiar, but I don't know him particularly well.
He is. He is. I think it would be offensive to call him a that guy. He is more than a that guy. He is Jason Isaacs. Put some respect on his name. People will know him probably most famously, I think, as Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter films. He will always, in my heart, be like the most royal piece of shit, Colonel William Tavington in The Patriot,
yes,
opposite Mel Gibson, which I learned the other day you haven't seen, which is a crime.
Yeah.
I know how we feel about some of the people involved in that, but it's a very, very, very watchable movie. Anyway, he's like an ultimate awful bad guy in that. And he often is a guy who plays like unsavory types, like a lovely individual by all accounts, but is like so good at playing like sort of nasties. And I don't know that we could like outright call Timothy a nasty yet, though it appears there's some nasties bubbling under the surface as he's getting harangued by the Wall Street Journal about a story that we'll get into. But he's the leader of this particular wolf pack. He is joined by his wife, Victoria, who is
Parker Posey,
the great Parker Posey, who basically, like, I feel like Parker Posey often just like plays this kind of a character. She's like sort of like a little aloof, a little mean, like a little bit like of an edge to her, and just always like there's like a luxurious quality I find to Parker Posey, and she's bringing all of that to the table here as a sleep deprived Victoria Ratliff. She goes to sleep right away. Jet lagged. Was she on jet lag?
No, not yet.
No. And so it's the two of them, and they've got 3 kids. They've got Saxon, Piper, and Lachlan. Saxon we see a lot of in this episode.
Sure. Yes, that he is keeping the season 2 tradition of being full frontal.
We need some button peen in every season of the White Lotus.
It was more like half frontal.
It's like half. It's
full backle.
It's mostly backle. I think your eyes are largely drawn to the peach emoji and not the eggplant. Though if you look in the mirror, you see eggplant for sure. Worth noting, this is Patrick Schwarzenegger, son of and
my son Patrick is here. My son
Patrick. He told me he went on the vacation to the Thailand version of the White Lotus Resort.
I didn't know his libido was so unchecked.
It was so strong. It is good to know the Terminator genes run in the family.
He did tweet out, Arnold Schwarzenegger was at the White Lotus premiere this last week, and he said,
as for my son's nude scene, all I can say is the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Oh!
And it's like, whoa, the Austrian oak has spoken.
Wow.
I think you can roll the tape and maybe challenge that, but we don't need to go into the Arnold Schwarzenegger deep dive. But he's loud and proud about his son, Patty Schwartz, just going full fronts in the very first episode of White Lotus season 3. So someone had to do it. We appreciate Mr. Schwarzenegger for his sacrifice.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to mention the other Ratliff kids?
Yeah. So that's Saxon. Saxon seems to be like super in on hot girls. It's a numbers game. So he's already playing. His philosophy, his life philosophy: get laid, get everything.
Get everything.
Wow. Doesn't getting laid couldn't you just say get everything? Or is it like, is it sort of like first you get the money? Is that like, is it like first you get laid, then you get everything? Is that sort of his order of operations?
That's tough. I would not be the expert on either of those things. You're maybe one of our listeners knows. I do not know.
Wow. Okay. Apple falls far from the Schwarzenegger tree here.
I get everything at the bagel store. Other than that,
you're an everything bagel man.
Yeah.
You're a fearless guy. You're not even worried about what's going to get stuck in your teeth.
No.
Bring it on.
I've got floss.
Seeds, baby.
Yeah.
So Saxon, that's Saxon. He's just trying to hump anything that moves, and then his and maybe including his siblings,
And his laptop.
his laptop. His sister is Piper. She's the reason why these guys are here. She wants to interview a Buddhist, a very famous Buddhist leader here in this area of Thailand for her thesis. This is the reason why the whole family has come here, even though they wanted to just like do like some Bahama bullshit. They came all the way to Thailand for Piper. So she has like an actual reason to be here. And then there's the youngest sibling, Lachlan, who seems like he's kind of the middle child, even though he's the youngest. Like he's caught in the middle between his older brother, who wants everything, and we're not talking about the bagel, and then his sister, Piper.
I want to know what he does with a bagel.
I think you can imagine. That's how the holes get made. And so Piper wants to just be like whole with the universe, man. Not whole with the bagel.
Yeah.
She wants the whole thing. And Lachlan doesn't really know where to go.
Yeah, she seems like that she needs to talk to this one particular monk, and that is going to help her with writing this research paper.
Yes. So she's off on that. That's what she's got going on. And so this is the family, and it seems like obviously there's like sibling tension that's going on here. I think as it pertains to Victoria and any tension that's coming from her, I think maybe it's like her expectation of her very perfect family, because it seems like we're in for a pretty rude awakening with these guys. That dastardly Bart Nixon at the Wall Street Journal, Rob, he keeps calling.
Yeah. So there's a reporter from the Wall Street Journal that is calling up on the phone, and that he finally gets a call back from Timothy, and that he wants to know about a specific deal that we see Timothy being pretty coy about, and it doesn't kind of blows the guy off, but is obviously concerned. He calls Kenny. Oh my God, he called Kenny.
You bastards.
Yeah. And leaves him a message. Hey, they're asking questions.
Oh my God, they found me. I don't know how, but they found me. Run for it, Kenny.
SoCal, he's talking about. I want to know about SoCal.
We know about SoCal, less about SoCal, and that is this account that they opened together. It has something to do with the country of Brunei, which is it's close to Borneo. I believe it's on the northern coast of the island of Borneo.
I believe there's a sultan.
Is there? Oh wow, the Sultan of Swat?
No, not the Bambino.
The Great Bambino?
No.
Great Bambino would be great in like a big White Lotus prequel.
Sure.
So there's something nefarious afoot.
Something going on. Yeah, he's been a part of some sort of like nefarious deal. The episode ends with Parker Posey's character like saying like
you're
a good man, you did it, you did all this, and he has a knowing look of like maybe I'm going to jail.
Yeah, I think like he's like, am I such a good guy? I don't know. Rob, it would take 591 hours to walk from Koh Samui, which is where I believe they are, to the country of Brunei, and you'd have to probably swim through some of that. So just in case you're planning a future getaway,
good to know.
It's a 591 hour journey on
I'd probably
foot.
take a moped.
Yeah, I think moped sounds like the way to go. So you think this is whatever poor Timmy's up to is whatever Timmy is up to is like some sort of jailable offense?
Sounds like it. Sounds like that, this family is very wealthy. It seems like that there was some underhanded dealings that ultimately got this family their money. Victoria does not seem to be in the know about any of this, but it seems like everything is going to be coming to a head for Timothy.
Great. Can't wait. Jason Isaacs, terrific actor. Timothy Ratliff, compelling character. And I don't want to judge a book by its cover, but he's giving douchebag. So if we're going to do like a takedown of this guy as one of like our main engines for season 3 of White Lotus, I'm very here for it.
Probably the douchiest thing he ends up doing is the way that he ends up treating, was it Pam?
Pam,
Who
yeah, poor Pam.
Comes,
Pam
comes
is
to
the aide, yeah.
try to tell them about that. Okay, we're gonna give you we're gonna basically customize this experience for you. First, tomorrow we're gonna take a test.
Yeah.
And Parker Posey, Victoria does not. She's like, no, a test.
Not here to test. We're not testing. This is not, we're not here to test. We're here to rest. Rest, not test.
Rest, not test. Yeah. And so basically that he says, no, we're not doing that. We're not gonna we're not giving up our phones.
Yeah. Would this be you? You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't end up here.
Yeah.
You know?
You wouldn't know what what I mean is you would not put yourself in a situation in a hotel with your family where you had to put your tech in a bag. I know you well enough. You might be trying to be I've changed.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You don't have that in you. I don't have it in me.
I think part of my detoxing is let me put on an audiobook and let me get away from this. So no, I probably wouldn't need to go to a digital detox in Thailand.
Yeah. Well, if this Wall Street Journal dude is he says the story's coming out this week, then maybe it's maybe they want to put their phones away. Maybe don't look at it. Don't look at it. It would be bad. We have a phone number, by the way, for Bart Nixon at the Wall Street Journal.
Call him.
Should we?
Yeah.
771-444-5801.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to call it. Do you want me to call it on
call on speaker.
Yeah, I got you. All right.
Okay. Hope it's not Mike White's cell phone number.
How incredible would that be? A survivor almost popped up as I put this in.
Be cool. Be cool, Josh.
I won't say which one because all I will say is if we had called that person, it would have been a bad podcast. All right, here we go. Let's put this on.
Great one. Yeah.
No, bad, definitely. All right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for calling the Federal Labor Relations Authority. Please
hang up.
At
It's a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap. Don't call Bart Nixon at the Wall Street Journal. They're coming. They're coming for your jobs.
Federal labor.
Wow.
Interesting. Could that be an Easter egg?
Could be an Easter egg. Let's see. Federal labor. Okay. Yeah.
Just a couple other things about the interaction with Pam, right? That we got a little bit about the that I think that Patrick Schwarzenegger who says, what am I supposed to do all week? Just eat fruit?
Eat fruit. That's it.
And he picks up this thing on oh God, could I just eat this fruit?
And they're like, don't do that.
Yeah, the seeds could be poisonous to a human. Interesting. Seeds, baby, indeed.
Yeah. So I want to briefly interrupt, although I think we're getting close to the end on the Ratliffs. I want to briefly interrupt our Ratliff analysis just to introduce every season of White Lotus has some sort of murder mystery, right? Yeah. We know who's in the box is the question of season 1. Who did Angelina and Kara watch in the ocean is the question of season 2. In season 3, we're kicking off with this really dark opening scene where a guy who appears to be, I think, Belinda's son, because we know that Belinda's son is showing up.
And he says he's from Hawaii.
Right. And so he's going through a meditation, and then gunshots are heard throughout the White Lotus. And
an active shooter situation.
It seems like an active shooter situation, which is terrifying. And so who's doing it? Who's perpetrating it? Who's getting killed? We see a skosh of a body at the end, but our visual cues on this stuff are pretty limited right now. But I feel like we are doing ourselves a disservice if we are taking this extraordinarily literally, where the idea is this is all inevitably building towards some kind of shootout, as opposed to is someone going to eat the bad seeds? Is that going to be the sucker punch? Are these somehow probably not fireworks, but is it not as severe as we think it is? And is the actual severe thing something else that we're going to miss if we don't look for it?
I do believe that we are in an active shooter situation. I mean, the glass is being blown out of the yoga studio. And so I do believe that there's a shooter. I feel like that there's almost no chance that Belinda is the body that is floating.
No, zero shot. But my point is that could be like random guest number 45, and like that could be like what we end up revealing, and then something on the other side is like Patrick Schwarzenegger ate a bunch of seeds or something like that. I don't know, but like there's that. We're gonna hear that the monkeys are super dangerous and don't feed them. So like I'm looking out for like I'm looking past the gun violence in this first episode, Rob. That's a huge existential threat and a literal threat to the White Lotus, Thailand. But there are other threats out there too. There's hungry monkeys in these woods.
Yeah, the monkeys
don't feed
loom
them
large, right?
Big Mogwai energy from the monkeys. Do not feed them. Do not.
You think they could go full gremlin?
Yeah, I think so. I think White Lotus Gremlins has some juice.
Could be. They did.
Can you imagine like the White Lotus up theme song for Gremlins? Like they could just like really do like
the Gremlins like to do
to like the White Lotus like fucking EDM beat. Like that's the way to go.
Yeah. Look, I think that both are under the HBO Max IP. So
that's true. That's right.
Multiverse could happen.
Animated White Lotus could be good.
Let's talk about then another group that's here. We have 3 best friends that
anybody could have.
Childhood friends. It's Jacqueline, Lori, and Kate. Girls trip.
Don't call it a midlife crisis. Call it a victory tour. So on the victory tour, another trio of incredible actors. We've got Leslie Bibb is playing Kate. The icon Carrie Coon, who was most famous on post-show recaps once upon a time as Nora Durst on The Leftovers, now borrowing from another Leftovers character. She's Lori this time. So Carrie Coon as Lori, and then Michelle Monaghan as Jacqueline Lemon. Her name is Jack Lemon?
Jacqueline.
Wow.
Lemon.
Jacqueline Lemon.
The Lemon Party, these three.
So she's the new Jack Lemon. Walton Matthau, is there anything to that? I don't think so.
I don't know. Is Lori the grumpy old woman?
Yeah, I think so. So it's Lori, who is like, she's a high-powered attorney, it sounds like, who does great work. I mean, I'm assuming high-powered, maybe not. They say to her, like, you do such great work. But they're like really grasping at straws to say like, okay, well, obviously Jacqueline is famous and Kate has like married into some kind of a fortune. But what has Lori done? What does Lori do? We don't know. She's an attorney of some kind. She has a kid who's turning out to be a really cool kid.
Yeah.
We hear that about Lori, and then like Kate seems to be like she's married into some money, and then Jacqueline is the star of a TV show, which is unnamed as far as I caught here. Is she on Survivor? Is that the TV show?
Is this Jacqueline Mish?
Yeah, Jacqueline Mish. This is the new Miss Michigan. Is Mish Jacqueline Michelle Monaghan? There you go. It's right there.
But on the surface, everybody's having a great time. We're having so much fun. This is great. We're all in this, and we're all best friends, and nobody is better than each other. But like under the surface, like just like in any Survivor grouping, that there's a pecking order here, and it's very clearly established.
So like if this tribe goes to tribal, Lori better play her shot in the dark, I think. Is the vibe. They're like the vibe from them, if we are like looking at these 3 sort of groupings as tribes, is like this is the tribe that's not going to tribal soon. It feels like there's more tension, I think, like more obvious tension in the other 2 guest storylines, but like that's part of I think what makes the victory tour especially tense, is that they're mostly really cool. They're mostly really lovey-dovey with one another. Their biggest concern so far seems to be that there's monkeys in the tree that you're not supposed to feed. It makes them aggressive. Could we be looking at chimpanzees with machine guns by the end of the White Lotus season?
You think that the monkeys are going to get their hands on the firearms?
I want to put it out there as a possibility that we could be looking at machine guns with monkeys with machine guns by the end of this.
Wow.
Just like Jimmy McGill. That's what he was. Chimp with machine gun.
You chimpanzee with a machine gun. Yeah.
So like there's
that's a
that,
good
and then
theory.
there's some tension between like the fact that Jacqueline and Katie seem to have more in common than they do with Lori, and Lori cries.
Mhm.
But other than that, like together, they're pretty held together right now.
Yeah.
With Timothy, it sounds like we're talking about like a real scandal there, and then we'll get into Rick and Chelsea in a second.
Yeah. But I think that what's interesting with Jacqueline, Kate, and Lori, I think it does speak to, I think, a very like common theme on the White Lotus of that characters experiencing the burden of privilege. And
Yes.
so that's also like often presented like through the eyes of like the whole upstairs, downstairs
Yes.
setup that we get throughout 3 seasons of the White Lotus, where the people that work at the hotel, sometimes get burdened with hearing about the very first world problems of the people vacationing at the White Lotus. And I'm sure that, to everybody's problems are, very much a issue to deal with that are very taxing, but compared to with other people's problems, not necessarily as bad, where Jacqueline can't really have a bad day in public anymore.
No, she's not allowed to have a bad day in public. She has to be super gracious all the time.
Yes, and that's a lot.
It's
Kate,
exhausting. I have to be like this all the time, and it sucks.
Yeah, Kate doesn't really know if people really want to be her friend or if they just want something.
They just want her money.
Mm-hmm.
I just want your money. So yeah, that's tough. That's a hard life. And that's those are the things that are most difficult for them. It seems like whatever is difficult for Lori is different. So how is that isolating her? I think it's a really good observation that we often do have, like, whether it's like Tanya's assistant in season 2 or Paula in season 1, feeling like the plight of the Hawaiian. Is Carrie Coon going to be that? This season, I think like she's one of them. I think like Piper seems like another example in the Ratliff family of like someone who seems to be here for like good reasons, at least on paper. She's writing a paper, but I think Lori being sort of like one of these things is not like the other in her dynamic. That opens up an interesting lens into all of the.
Lori seems like the person who's certainly most grounded in the real world, but we don't know necessarily like
this ain't the real world, kid.
Yeah. Has she misrepresented herself and what's going on in her life to Jacqueline and Kate, or are Jacqueline and Kate that insufferable for Lori that it's a lot to deal with? We see her scream into the abyss.
Yeah. Which I do like probably twice a day. So, and we were with her all day, basically. This seems like the first abyss scream. So she's doing all right.
Yeah.
How many abyssal screams do you emit per year? Do you never like shout? Are you never so upset where you're just like, Aah!
No, I often am.
Strong recommend. It's very, very relieving.
Yeah, I often am, and maybe I can, divulge why when I stay at the White Lotus Australia in season 4.
Okay, great. So we'll set you up with the right.
Yeah. Did you catch that they talked about that we should have gone to Australia? Do you feel like is that sort of like a backdoor pilot, much like in The Leftovers, of setting up a future season in Australia?
I think the White Lotus Australia, the White Lotus Down Under, feels like an adventure we should go on.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's calling it. I know it's already greenlit for season 4.
That's right. It's been renewed already, so we know that it's gonna come. But I don't think
very
that we're
logical next stop for the White Lotus.
I don't think we are going to be walking 590 whatever hours to Brunei for White Lotus season 4. I think Australia is a better bet. Will Valentine be there? Sexy Valentine.
I don't know.
It was actually just Valentine's Day.
All bets are off, because I really feel like that now, like we have really like built out this like White Lotus cinematic universe with characters coming from season to season. And so I think any of the surviving characters from the first 3 seasons could show up in season 4.
White Lotus All-Stars is gonna happen. It's a question of when. I hope that Mike White has the wisdom to know he needs a couple more White Lotuses under his belt before
White Lotus 50?
White Lotus 50 is definitely an all-star season for sure. I think we'll get a White Lotus All-Stars.
Season 8?
I think season 8 is appropriate. Yeah, for a lot of reasons.
Okay. All right, bring them back. Okay. Anything else on our friends, girls trip, victory lap?
No, I do think it's funny how her name is Sritala. I think Kun Sritala is the name of the owner of the hotel. And she like clearly just like wants to get back into showbiz, so she's like really cozying up to Jacqueline.
Oh,
especially.
interesting. I didn't catch that.
So like that I have an eye on.
Mhm.
I have an eye on her for another reason, but that brings us to the next story.
Let's talk about your guy Walton Goggins is here.
My
Rick
man.
Hatchett.
Rick Hatchett. Rick Hatchett sounds like a porn star, right?
You have to ask Saxon.
Yeah. Saxon's probably
Saxon asked the question, what's your favorite type of movie that he wants to know? And then it was a wild couple of choices.
Yeah, he had a couple of different genres.
Mhm.
Hot Teacher.
Yep, that was one.
And then what's Bukkake?
You know, Josh, it's not that kind of podcast.
Is it an
not
art?
that you
Is it an art form?
some would say perhaps.
Is it like painting?
It's actually similar. You're getting warmer.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to Google that. I've wasted my Google minutes on the calculations.
Google it. No, don't. Do not. Okay.
Rick Hatchett. Questionable. Could be a porn star. We find out very little about Rick Hatchett in this episode. Man of mystery, some intrigue. Walton Goggins is really well known as like a very loquacious guy. Like he gets cast as these very these men with very colorful dialogue, whether that's Boyd on Justified or Uncle Baby Billy on Righteous Gemstones. Are you a Righteous Gemstones man?
I watched a little bit of it, but not enough.
If you allow yourself, you are going to be obsessed with that show.
Yeah.
But
the 1 hour runtime for me is a little like I
is
feel
it a
like
full hour Righteous Gemstones?
I think so.
I don't think so. I
maybe
think it's
only the first
Go-
episode.
Go 1.5 Righteous Gemstones. You'll be very happy that you did it.
Yeah.
And the final season coming up while White Lotus is still on. So HBO is going to be getting double goggined, which I believe is another film genre.
Yep. Similar.
Yeah, very similar. So Rick Hatchett, we don't know a lot about because he doesn't talk that much. So it's like it's already a pretty different Walton Goggins, which I'm appreciating. It doesn't seem like you would think that Mike White, who does such great dialogue work, that you would hire Walton Goggins to just like monologue.
Yeah, but Josh,
he's quiet.
It's the first episode, but it's only our first episode.
It's only our first episode, but so far, if we were to assign an emoji to Rick Hatchett,
do not.
Zip lip.
Zip
lips.
Let's talk about Chelsea. Chelsea is the girlfriend of Rick.
Chelsea would be the toothy smile emoji. She gets complimented on her teeth in this episode.
Hey, Josh, come on, knock it off.
What's wrong?
No, come on, come back to me.
I'm here.
Come back to me.
I'm still here. I never left. I never went anywhere. Rick and Chelsea. So Rick, it is yet to be determined where he lands on the LBH meter. Is Rick Hatchett,
is he a loser back home?
A loser back home. Is he just one of these several generic white bald guys, the WBGs of Thailand? Or is there still hope for him, as he is only going bald, has yet to fully go there?
Okay, well, we know some things about Rick Hatchett. For instance, he was not able to go to Australia.
Yeah, he's not allowed to go there. He can't go to Australia.
Don't go there. Yeah.
And Chelsea says, if we go to Australia, are you going to get arrested? He says, you're like a machine gun with the questions. I wonder, is that
foreshadowing?
Chelsea with a machine gun? I don't know.
Yeah. So she's very into him.
Super into him.
Super into Rick.
Like a destined relationship. That the universe put her on Rick's path to help him solve whatever his baggage is.
Yeah. There is a little bit of an age difference between them.
Yes.
Okay. We don't know too much about their background. He's also pretty salty. He's rude with Mook.
Yes.
When they check into the room.
Yes.
She covers for him about going and he has a migraine.
Yes.
She suggests that he gets a gentleman's facial.
Yes.
Not going to go back. We're not going backwards. Okay. We're staying. We're staying. We're talking about this. Okay.
Is that a spa? We're talking spa treatments?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know why we're making this weird.
Yeah. So, yes, she wants to say like, "Hey, let's party. Let's have one last time to get crazy before
let's
the
get
detox."
Hammered. Let's get hammered. We're gonna detox the whole week, and he's just like not that into it. He doesn't like the food here.
Yeah, he thinks it's what he says. What is this? A fat camp?
Yeah, he went all the way to Thailand to go to on a weight loss program.
One time at fat camp.
Yeah. Oh, I took a kielbasa, and so he's not wanting to eat the food. He's not really wanting to be here at all. It seems like he came here for a very specific yet enigmatic reason that he cannot fulfill anymore.
Yes, but
because he came to Thailand to cross paths with the other owner of this hotel, Kun Sritala's husband, who is very famous in Thailand, Jim Hollander.
Yes, an American who is married to the woman we see running the hotel.
Sritala, yes. So Jim Hollander showing up here, at least in name, and we see a quick article about him. And I believe I've ID'd the actor, but let's see how that unfolds.
We see a couple of very awkward interactions between Walton Goggins' character Rick and Jason Isaacs' Timothy. Timothy does not even like Rick.
No, and Rick doesn't like Timothy. Rick doesn't like Saxon. Rick doesn't really like anybody, but he gets off to the Ratliff family's bad side in this episode. He's like smoking on the boat, and then he's smoking outside, and so Timothy gets the phone call from the Wall Street Journal. He's taking the call, and then he comes back in, and Walton Goggins is smoking a cigarette, and he goes, "How's your night going?" He says, "F off," to borrow from another HBO show. Was Walton Goggins trying to like be nice, or was he needling him there?
I don't think he was trying to be nice.
Okay, so it was a needle.
Yeah, I think certainly needling him. Where's this going with these two battering rams?
Two battering rams. Well, hopefully to the attack zone.
A sumo at sea.
Let's put those two at sumo at sea. I mean, a punch will be thrown at the bare minimum, if not like an all-out shooting between these two.
Yeah.
In some capacity.
Well, let me present another option.
Yeah.
Could they end up being unlikely allies that
Did we
both
just
of
become
them
best friends?
Yeah. Both of them, not to, bring back the Justified, but like both of these figures seem to wear the black hat, you know. Could they maybe be in some kind of caper together where if Timothy ends up sort of like, boy, I'm really hard up now due to this other situation, and Rick Hatchett needs some kind of a wingman.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, just like to stay on this conversation, but maybe take it in like a more like I don't know, like actually kind of like a Boyd Crowder direction. On Justified, he's an outlaw. Here, we don't know anything about what he does. Apparently, he doesn't do a ton. He barely works, is what Chelsea says. But they travel a ton. He can't go back to Australia. What does he do? Is he like? To borrow from a Carrie Coon HBO show, is he some kind of international assassin? Like, what's Rick Hatchett's deal is a big question that I have right now.
I suspect more some kind of like confidence man, flim-flam man, more so than an assassin.
So more
or a spy.
More Sawyer, less Jack Bauer.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm here for some kind of
certainly less Jack Shepard.
Yeah. We could. Do we have a doctor? Is there a doctor here? But Jack Shepard could make a cameo. Thailand is where he got his tattoo.
Oh, so sure. Where's Bai Ling?
Yeah, Bai Ling also ought to make a cameo, and we'll have words for Mike White if Bai Ling doesn't show up here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Josh, in addition to the guests, we meet the staff of the White Lotus, and we have a transfer here from the White Lotus Hawaii, Belinda from season 1, who was the massage therapist, spa worker.
Yes, she
Not
was
sure what her title was.
she was the massage master. She was the spa manager at the White Lotus Hawaii. The great Natasha Rothwell playing Belinda and coming back here as Belinda Lindsay is the name of Belinda.
Former business partner of Tanya.
Briefly business partners with Tanya McQuad. And so Belinda is here, and we knew this. If you knew anything about the show, you probably had heard that she was coming back. She's here as basically like a transfer student. Like she's on like a semester at sea, where she's come to the White Lotus Thailand to learn their techniques and bring it back to Hawaii. And so far, her storyline just seems like a mix of, gosh, I'm so happy to be here. I've been having a really hard time, and it feels like the
last couple of years.
Yeah, last few years, basically since Tanya, I think it seems like. And so she's here, and she's afraid of monitor lizards, but otherwise is effectively in heaven here in Thailand. Her son is coming. All of this, but she's not the only person from the White Lotus Hawaii to show up here in White Lotus Thailand. So very interested to see where things are going to go for Miss Belinda.
Yeah. You want to talk about the other returning player?
The other returning player. These are our tribe captains for the season.
Maybe. We see at the bar. Okay. So Chelsea is now off to the bar by herself. She's having a drink as we see Rick go off to do his own thing. She ends up meeting another woman who is a model. She talks about that she is basically, her boyfriend isn't talking to her. He's so annoying. He is a bald-headed loser. Yeah. And what a reveal to see Greg.
Okay, do we need a TLDR on Greg real quick, do you think? Okay.
Please.
So Greg
more than
more than ever.
BHL.
Yeah. Greg now more than ever. So Greg, played by John Grease, Uncle Rico, as well as Benjamin Linus.
Is LBH
on Lost. Well, LBH, he worked for BLM, if you'll recall. How did you get involved with Black Lives Matter? But it wasn't Black Lives Matter. It was a federal institution. Maybe that's who we just called, in fact. So he's like a gun-toting American who is like he says he's sick, he's not doing well. He and Tanya hit it off. She's Tanya, so she freaks out a bunch. But he tells her at one point, like after she's had a huge freak out, he's like, I still want to get laid. So they continue to do it. And Tanya is going to leave Hawaii enamored of Greg and is going to bail on the plan with Belinda because she has found Greg to glom onto.
Yeah.
Season 2, they return to a White Lotus to Sicily as newlyweds. Turns out the entire reason they are there is so that Greg can set Tanya up with all of his murderous gay friends who will take her on a murderous gay cruise and murderously gay kill Tanya. She will end up killing the murderous gays, and in her attempt to escape their clutches will have the classic Survivor balance beam challenge fail, where she will fall and bash her head on a platform and drown at sea and be the murder victim of season 2. So all of this is because of Greg. And it was like, not like super overt all the time that it was about Greg, but the Reddit sleuths put it together. Greg gets no justice by the end of season 2. We're talking about Buddhism, or are we talking about karma? Well, look who just showed up for season 3. There's no Tanya McQuad, but the late Tanya's husband, Greg, is here in Thailand.
Now, Greg is here. Did we establish that Greg was set to inherit the McQuad family fortune?
I feel like there was something about the prenup that I can't quite remember, but I cannot imagine that he goes through with such a convoluted plan to off her if he doesn't stand
and he's
to
still
inherit
hanging out at the White Lotus Thailand.
Yeah, and I guess like it kind of opens
with
up
a model girlfriend.
Yeah, like what was his deal before meeting Tanya, and like was he like what kind of level of shady individual was he back then, and what were his his connections then. He was like linked in with the murderous gays, and they were very wealthy, but were losing their wealth, and that was part of why they had to get involved in this.
Yeah.
So I think that he stands to, I think that it only follows that if he's got a model girlfriend here and he's a big bald loser here in Thailand, and he lives in a house up the hill from the hotel that's a White Lotus, that's like a 5-star resort, he's got money.
He's got money.
So
Now, okay, on the idea of karma, do you think that Belinda could have where that Belinda missed out on her opportunity? Tanya was set to invest in Belinda's business, but then ultimately she pulled out of the deal to go and throw herself into the loving arms of Greg.
Yes.
Do you think that Belinda could be the one to dish out the cold justice to Greg?
So tell me what you think about this. I think watching this premiere, cold take, Belinda and Greg have to cross swords. They just have to. Like, that's where this has to go. Did
Belinda meet Greg in season 1?
I think that she like saw him at dinner, and that was it. Is my memory of that. But they have to cross paths, obviously. The question that I have past that is, how much does Tanya have to cross paths in here? If ever there was a moment for it, Rob, Ghost Tanya? Could the ghost of Tanya McQuad, like a Force Jedi Knight, show up to guide Belinda in the battle of good and evil against Greg?
The name of the episode is Same Spirits, New Forms.
Yeah.
Could
so has
Tanya...
she reincarnated?
Could she be in some way reincarnated? Could she be one of the, there's so many, the monitor lizard, the monkey.
Yep. By the way,
monkey.
Belinda's so scared of a monitor lizard. She lives in Hawaii. There's got to be all sorts of stuff.
I don't know.
Monitor lizards, that scary? Anyway, whatever. Yeah. My monkey. Yeah. Could she have turned into, could she be the Buddhist priest that Piper is here to see? Could we could you imagine the Buddhist monk ends up being Jennifer Coolidge?
Well,
in a different character.
Now, I am not the ultimate expert on Buddhism, but although my TikTok feed from time to time does, serve me a nugget, a little chestnut here and there.
Buddha TikTok?
Look, the algorithm is
Your
like the universe.
wiling
It brings
out.
you what you need, Josh. That being said, I don't believe that
TikTok's
I think
a lot like identity, Rob. No one is spared that prison. We all are locked inside of TikTok forever.
For now, yeah. But yeah, I think that the reincarnation, like a new life, needs to happen, right? Like I think that it's not you don't quantum leap into a person that's already alive. From what I understand,
I think that that's right.
And so maybe if you're a Tanya and you didn't do so great, maybe you go backwards into an animal.
Okay, an animal is interesting. How about if we find out that Greg and his model girlfriend have a child? What if it's baby Tanya?
Wow. Okay, that's a lot.
So the model is her mother.
My mother. Yeah.
I think it's worth looking at anybody new on this show, whether it's an animal or a baby. That's what I mean by new, like new to Earth, relatively new to Earth, as a potential Tanya McQuad.
Yeah. Okay.
I could be anyone. I could be anywhere. I could be that really nice general manager, Fabian. I could be him. There's no one that I couldn't possibly be.
Fabian, I feel like of our 3 White Lotus managers, gets the least to do, I feel like, in episode number 1.
Yeah, Fabian, not a lot going on with Fabian. Fabian's just sort of here. Purple Fabian is here. Belinda's colleague, Pornchai is the name of her colleague. So he seems like a nice guy. Fabian seems a little whatever. And then I think like the other staff story that is starting to show up here in this first episode is Gaitak and Mook. And I am to understand that Mook is played by a very, very famous singer and rapper and dancer in Thailand named Lisa. Is her name. Will we find out about her brother at any point in time? But there's Gaitak and Mook, who are like a little cutesy. There's
like a Jim and Pam situation going on here,
but
except
not
for
the other Pam.
But the guys who work in the factory, the guys who work in the loading,
the fulfillment department,
Fulfillment
the
department.
bodyguards,
yeah. Okay, and she's like, boy, those guys are interesting.
Yeah. Those guys are interesting. She's interested in them. She's interested
They
in
have
him
guns.
becoming one of them. She's like, why don't you go out and do that? And he says, well, because they're like super, like, you know, Hollinger is super famous. She says, like, the bodyguards get to see the world. You just stay here. It's like, I like it here. I get to see the people come in through the gates and stuff.
He saved the drowning man.
He still writes to him. They're still pen pals. So
yeah.
Gaitak's ambition is maybe a little low, but his feelings for Mook seem quite high.
Okay.
So that's cute. I like that.
And then, of course, huge news in our world is big celebrity sighting here at the White Lotus. Belinda gets dinner and spots. Is that what is that? Is that the Natalie napalm I smell?
Yeah, it sure is. I love the fresh smell of Natalie napalm in Thailand. It's Natalie napalm, and it's Cowboy Carl.
Yeah. Godfather Carl.
Godfather Carl. It's the Godfather himself and
Bing.
Natalie. Bing. A White Lotus tradition. Mike White loves to bring his Survivor companions back to work with him. It was Alec in season 1. It was Cara and Angelina in season 2. And look who got tapped, Carl and Natalie. I don't think that they would have been next on my bingo card of David versus Goliath colleague to return for a White Lotus, but I'm thrilled to see them here.
For anybody who's newer Survivor fans, Mike White has now cast 5 people from his season, only his season of Survivor, David versus Goliath.
Yeah. If the White Lotus...
Carl, first David to be cast.
First David to be cast. Typically, he's only cast Goliaths, which is such Goliath behavior. Probst was right all along. These little Goliaths just out here stomping on flies. But Carl gets the tap. Carl gets the David call. And so it's Carl and Natalie here. If the White Lotus goes on long enough as to exhaust the entire David versus Goliath cast, what's Mike going to do?
Now,
New survivors?
Back to the top of the order.
Just like we go like straight back.
Did you happen to see this week, Josh, that who was hosting the White Lotus celebrity red carpet for HBO Max?
It was none other than best known as the riveting guest of new RHAP podcast, The Social Game, herself, the incredible legend Parvati Shallow.
Bing! Yeah,
she was there. So Parvati in season 4?
I mean, look, I think you could do worse, right?
Parvati in season 4, but I think Parvati is so famous that she has to play Parvati. I think that might be the next evolution of this for Mike White, is like to have... I have said in the past, and I hold to this, what I would really like is for Jeff Probst, who was also on the carpet for the White Lotus premiere. I want Jeff Probst on a season of the White Lotus as Jeff Probst, and I would like him to be at least a modest sized role. I don't want it to be like Carl and Natalie walk on, and granted, they give him like great White Lotus music. It's like they give him a real meal on their way to the meal, and that's it. We're like with Natalie and Carl for 5 seconds.
Do you
Jeff
think we
Probst,
will see
main
them
character,
again
season
in the
4.
White Lotus? Like, do you think it will be like Natalie Cole is the dead body?
Do we think that like in the next episode, like, will we see them again? I think like either we see them in the next episode because like Belinda locks eyes on them, and like we see them again in the next episode, and that's a thing. Or if we don't see them in the next episode, I think we're done. And it was just a quick walk on for Carl.
Yeah, I hope there's more, because I feel like with the White Lotus, like, people don't stay there for one day.
No.
People are
No.
there for the whole week.
They typically are, unless it's like their last night.
It could
Or
be
they
overlapping, but
typically-
hopefully this is just the start of the week for Natalie and Carl.
Yeah, I guess I have some questions about like the turnaround on guests at the White Lotus, and like they come in on a small boat and it's just the main characters. Like, are those the only new guests for the day? Is there another boat? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how it works either.
I'd love to see more Carl and Natalie. Obviously, they didn't even get a dialogue. They got no dialogue here.
Not yet.
At least Karen, Angelina, and Alec had lines.
Yeah. So
What
we'll
are they
see.
gonna like? Literally, all they needed to do was have Carl ring a dinner bell, and that would have been enough.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. All right, Josh. Just how about some other like overall themes from it? You mentioned the audiobook podcast or interview that the daughter is
Piper,
listening
yeah.
to. Piper's listening to. And we hear them talk about identity is a prison.
Yes.
We lock ourselves inside and throw away the key. That just rang very true
Didn't
to
that
me.
feel
In terms of,
horrid. It was like, oh man, yeah, that hurts. That you got me precisely.
yeah,
We're in the
I
chest.
just feel like that I believe speaks to the theme of where we're going this season.
Yes, I think like to go beyond the self, right? And so like, what will that journey look like for everybody? Like, everybody is on this show, if that's sort of like a unifying theme. And I agree, it feels like it's here to like mission statement us a little bit about what to expect here in season 3. So then everybody is on here to kind of like reflect on that question. And I guess my question is like, who here is most likely to like stay in prison, and who is most likely to leave, and which levels of security in the prison are they going to? I think that like how people negotiate their senses of self or their ideas for their family. Like, Lachlan doesn't really want to be a Tar Heel. He doesn't want to go to the same school that his whole family has gone to. He thinks that he has some other choices, and they're like, oh, but you're gonna go.
Yeah, but it's two different schools. That dad went to Duke, mom went to UNC,
But
and it's a binary choice.
It's a binary choice. He has no option C, and like he's a guy who's thinking about option C a little bit, I think. And so like, what happens there? Like, I think that there's a lot of questions that some of these people seem to be having about who they are, how they fit into this, strange blue marble that we're all on. And I think it'll be really fun to see how that gets explored. Also, I'm sure at times it will be very, very, very horrible to observe that, both in like a delightful way and then like a wretched way, because that's the White Lotus. Like,
For sure.
impish nightmare fuel is coming our way, no doubt. And I'm very curious to see what form that takes.
And just like for Carl and for Natalie, I feel like that episode 1 is really like the table is set.
Yes.
We are ready to eat now.
Yes.
We know where all the pieces are on the board, and we're ready to dive in.
Yes, which is great. I think that that's what the first episode should do. Like, establish
Like a
the
plunge
cast,
pool,
get us
ready
in
to
plunge.
go right in.
Get us primed and ready to go. Like, I think like we need to know who all these people are. We need to know a bit about what they stand for. Let's wrap our heads around that, and then we can go on whatever journey we're going to go on. I do think that this episode did a really good job of like establishing those very basics. So I'm psyched. I'm bought in. I'm ready to go. I'm thrilled that we're doing the podcast, Rob. I think that there's a lot of fun to be had in the next 7 more episodes. It's an 8-episode season, the longest season of the White Lotus so far.
Okay. Do you have a prediction? Do you want to call it in episode 1? Who's dead?
Who's dead? Okay. Just looking through, and I'm trying to think of, here's the thing is that every season, the person I didn't want to die the most is the one who got killed.
Even in season 1.
Yeah, I thought Murray Bartlett is so good, and I would have loved to have seen him. Like, it's just what a rough ending for that guy. I really didn't want to see him go. I wish that he was still alive in the White Lotus universe. I think he had a lot more to offer. So who's like my favorite? I guess is like the same question. It's like whoever I like the most, if past his prologue might be the person to die. I don't think it'll be Belinda though.
No, I don't
think they'll kill Belinda. Just out of like sheer like options, like I figure Ratliff, if a Ratliff probably.
So, okay. I feel like it's going to be Greg. I feel like that the show at its heart is a black comedy in that, that there is going to be death and mayhem. But I feel like that, if a parent dies or a child dies, I just feel like that's too sad.
Yeah,
where Tanya can die, but she's not survived by she's survived by her assistant.
Right.
There's not somebody who's grieving and mourning in the show where, unless somebody really takes a heel turn. I could see Walton Goggins and, his girlfriend discovers who he is and he dies. Right. I could see it being him. But I just think for somebody who's like, a part of the family, in part of, a friend group to die,
I think
that's incredibly sad.
I think in the friend group, it would be more tolerable. I think within the family, even if these people all kind of suck, I think you're right that like sort of just like the level of grief that you would get from that would be very intense. That being said, I think this season started on a more intense note than it's ever started before. So could it end in a similar place, like full circle? I'd be curious if there was a time to like, I think if there was ever a time to test how much we as a White Lotus audience can tolerate, this feels like a good season to test that out. And the Ratliff family seems like just a great bunch of people to maybe experiment this question on. But I think regardless, I think either Greg survives this and becomes like the steady character for every season of the White Lotus going forward, or the road ends here. And season 3 is at least partly about justice for Tanya McQuad.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question, Josh.
Yeah.
Who wins White Lotus season 3?
Love that question. Who wins White Lotus season 3?
Because in White Lotus season 2, I would say the winner was
the girls. I want to
make sure,
right?
The girls.
The ladies.
Yes.
They're the winners, and then it's the kid. It's like
Lucia.
Yeah, so like who gets I think the winner of the White Lotus historically has been who owns the final moment of the show. And so in season 1, it's the son, it's the kid. He stays behind. He's ejected himself from the plane. He's canoeing with the people. He has stayed behind. He has decided he's going to go off on his own journey. He probably then gets immediately put back on an airplane and grounded for life. But at least as far as the season goes, he's the winner. Season 2, I think you're right. They're the winners. They've got money. They're doing well. Who's it going to be here? I would guess Piper would be my bet. That she's here for the thesis to interview a Buddhist. She's here, it seems like, for mostly good reasons, unless there's like a real twist there, which it's so early that there certainly could be. But I could see like the season like ending with her meditating or something like that. So I'm going to say Piper's my winner pick. Who's yours?
That's a good pick. Could be Lachlan. I'm going to say Lori. I think that Carrie Coon is here. She's such an incredible actress. I think you probably want to give her like a super meaty role. She's already like disgusted with the very self-absorbed Kate and Jacqueline. So I feel like that she's giving me winner vibes here in episode 1.
Okay, I think that Lori strikes me as the person who I would make my winner pick, and then she goes home in like the first episode. I feel like she's like gives great preseason energy, but she's already freaking out on the beach. Rob, she cried in the first.
Yeah, but we've
episode.
seen people bounce back from that.
We have, but it's a harder road. So I don't know. Okay, so your winner pick is Lori. My winner pick is Piper. And
Belinda too. Belinda could win the season.
Belinda could win the season too. Belinda's a very likely bet for that too. So I think that Belinda's a very good, safe pick to win the season. Piper's in the mix.
Greg dies. Belinda ends up with like a suitcase full of Tanya's cash.
Yeah, she like finds like in the basement all of the money, like something like that. Yeah, I could see that. That for sure. Also, the season begins with her son. For it to like end in that story would make sense to me too. So I can see it. I can see that happening for sure.
Okay. All right. Episode
let's
1.
Track it, though. Like, let's do a stock watch as we go through. Whose fortunes are rising?
Sure.
Whose fortunes
Fantasy
are falling?
White Lotus. Nobody else is doing that. Okay.
Fantasy White Lotus is a sick idea.
Mhm.
Do we have
Pretty
other
good.
people write into us and tell us who their winner picks and loser picks are? Who's going to die? Who's going to win? These are the questions
Mhm.
that we ask here on the We Know White Lotus podcast on RHAP, We Know Scripted TV.
Okay. Let us know in the YouTube comments. Okay. And then we'll figure out more ways to be able for you to get your feedback into the show. Look, and if this is really hitting, we could do White Lotus feedback show.
Would love a White Lotus feedback show. I've got a couple of ideas there. So
Mhm.
let's hear from you folks. Are you a fan of this White Lotus podcast? Are you?
Tread lightly.
Because we would love to have you along for the ride. We're planning on having a really great time on this podcast. We're going to be talking about all. Greg's here.
Dive in head first
Dive in head first. Just take
to
the
our
plunge.
coverage.
That's
Yes.
it.
Okay. All right. Of course, you can catch all of our coverage right here in our podcast feed. Go to We Know Scripted TV. Look for We Know Scripted TV wherever you listen to podcasts to hear this and much, much more coming from the scripted arm of RHAP. All right. Josh, anything else?
No, thrilled with the start to the season. We're like slow simmer. You know, we just like turned on the heat. You know, we just ignited it. What happens now?
Okay.
Looking forward to episode 2. Very much.
Can't wait to see where we go from here. And
should we ask everybody to put their devices back in the bags until we come back with another episode of White Lotus?
They're going to need the devices if they're going to subscribe and leave us comments.
Right. So subscribe, leave comments, then put the phone in the bag for a week.
Appreciate it. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us here for the start of what I think is going to be a very fun ride. Thank you for being here. Check out everything else we have going on here on RHAP. I think you'll find something you like, whether it's scripted or reality TV. So thank you for being here with us. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.